Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty heavy, but it's essential. We're not going to talk about any one controversial figure. Our focus today is the audience. Specifically, we want to figure out why a big, important group of young American men are listening to these alternative, often criticized voices. And what does that tell us about where our society is heading?
That's a really vital distinction to make. Our source material is very clear on this. If you want to understand what's happening, you have to look past the noise, the reflexive name calling, the labels like Nazi or just saying, I'm a good person, he's not.
Right.
The sources say that whole response from the establishment isn't just shallow or hysterical. It's completely counterproductive. It actually makes the problem worse.
Counterproductive is the key word there. So the biggest lesson here, right at the top, is trying to understand why. Why are these young men skipping the established conservative places?
The Heritage Foundation, for example.
Exactly, the think tanks, or even mainstream conservative media like the Daily Wire. What problems are they facing that make these, more radical voices seem so appealing?
It really boils down to a crisis of trust, a complete breakdown between a ruling class and a whole generation. And there's this fascinating nugget the sources lay out. They cite someone like Donald Trump. When every single power center in the country, the media, academia, the government, declares war on you, it doesn't always destroy you.
It can make you stronger.
It makes you stronger, especially in the eyes of people who feel like the system is at war with them too.
So when the so-called professional betterers just dismiss people's concerns, they're actually proving the point. They're confirming that the whole system is shallow and hysterical.
Exactly.
And that takes us right to the first major issue, the cultural diagnosis. The sources describe a world that, for at least a decade now, has shown this open, just ferocious hostility toward young white men.
That's right. The feeling described in the documents is one of systemic exclusion. This group, specifically white straight men, is pointed to as, and this is a quote, the one group officially excluded by a lot of DEI policies.
In what areas?
In the workplace, in higher education, even in federal grants. The policies have systematically created this feeling of being an outsider in your own country.
And it's more than just policy, right? It's the cultural messaging they see everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources talk about seeing books in every university library, every major bookstore with titles like Whiteness is the Problem.
Yeah.
Imagine you're 19. You're just trying to get started in a really competitive world, and every signal you get tells you that you were fundamentally bad because of how you were born. It's deeply alienating.
And that feeling is just amplified by some of the high-profile rhetoric the sources bring up.
We have very specific examples. You had the President of the United States get up and say that racism is basically a white man's problem.
Right. Committed only by whites.
And then there was that just staggering moment on CNN, the one where an anchor looks right into the camera and asks, "What the F is wrong with you white people?" The sources flag that as this moment of pure contempt.
Okay, let's connect that feeling of being attacked back to this bigger idea of moral authority. The sources argue this all makes it impossible for the ruling class to then turn around and lecture anyone on morality.
Precisely. On anything, really, but especially on things like anti-Semitism or anti-Black racism.
Why?
Because the core principle of Western civilization is supposed to be that hating any group for who they are is universally wrong. So if the people in charge are seen as publicly hating on one group, in this case young white men, just based on their birth, they lose all credibility to condemn the hatred of any other group.
They can't claim the principle if they don't apply it to everyone.
Exactly. If it's okay to mock or exclude one group based on birth, then you've thrown the whole principle out the window. You sacrificed the high ground.
So it's not about whether the thing they're criticizing is true or not. It's about the hypocrisy of the person doing the criticizing. It's hard to take a lecture seriously from someone who seems to hold the same kind of prejudice they're condemning.
That's the argument, yeah.
All right, let's shift gears to the second huge pillar here. The economy. The sources are blunt. They say the economy created by older generations is actively destroying young people.
And the housing crisis metrics are just, they're shocking. Buying a home has never been harder, statistically. The average age for a first-time buyer has jumped from 33 to 40.
And how long?
In just 5 years. A 7-year jump in age in just 5 years. And the median home price, it's over $400,000, up more than 50% since 2019.
Wow. That's not just a statistic. That changes a person's entire life. It forces them to put everything on hold.
Everything. The research found that 71% of people who want to own a home are delaying marriage, they're delaying having kids, they're delaying career moves, all because they can't afford a house.
That's a fundamental breakdown of the social contract.
It is, and the sources point to specific causes that this group finds especially offensive. Things like big corporations, BlackRock is mentioned, buying up single-family homes and turning them into rentals, locking people out forever,
And what else?
and mass migration, both legal and illegal. They say it just dramatically increases density, makes people feel stuffed full of people and constantly competing for everything.
So when they're being denied this basic thing, what the sources call a fundamental aspiration for a man, a cave, or a little house, the idea of sending billions of dollars overseas.
Yeah, to Israel or Sudan or France,
Yeah.
it's just seen as this incredible insult.
They see it as paying for their own betrayal.
It's a zero-sum game in their minds.
Yeah.
When you see your own government failing you on something as basic as homeownership, seeing that money go to other countries, even allies, just fuels that sense of betrayal. It fuels the America First idea.
And this is all happening while they're drowning in debt.
Totally in hawk. Student loans for degrees that didn't pay off, credit card debt, these buy now, pay later schemes that are everywhere.
And this is where the sources make a really sharp moral critique, and it's aimed right at mainstream conservatives. They say the establishment right always blames the borrower, never the lender.
Yeah, they use a really powerful analogy. They compare the borrower and lender relationship to an addict and pusher.
That's a serious charge.
Yeah, it is. And they justify it by pointing out that in almost any other exploitative relationship, the pusher, the one enabling the harm, is punished more harshly. But with the debt crisis, the lenders, the banks, the universities with bloated budgets and payday loan places, they're all protected. Why? Money and self-interest.
And the establishment right, according to the sources, lets this happen because they're terrified of being called a socialist if they dare criticize a bank.
Right. So they dodge accountability and that failure to protect their own people from what they see as financial predators. That's what fuels the radicalism.
So if the establishment is failing them culturally and economically, where are they going politically? Let's bring in the perspective from the sources interview with young conservative, a guy named Nalan Haley.
He represents this shift really well.
Yeah.
And the rejection is loud and clear. They're rejecting what they call Con Inc.
For our listeners, what exactly is Con Inc.? Is that just media or is it bigger?
It's the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
The big media companies on cable news and podcasts, the think tanks in D.C. that write the policy, the big money pakes. Young conservatives felt this whole machine wasn't serving them. It was misleading them, just offering up rage bait.
Like what?
You know, like endless videos of Ben Shapiro owning SJWs.
Yeah.
It felt like entertainment, not solutions to their actual material problems.
So the movement that comes out of that, which they insist is rational, not radical, is this nationalist America First idea.
And it's focused squarely on American workers, on affordability, and on culture. And their critique of the elites is sharp. They say the elites won't criticize corporations that sent factory jobs overseas because they're afraid of that socialist label.
Prioritizing an abstract ideology over actual American workers.
That's how they see it, yeah.
And their views on foreign policy and immigration are a huge break from the older guard.
A massive break.
Yeah.
Gen Z, according to the sources, hates war. They look at Iraq and Afghanistan and just see total catastrophic failures. They point to Iraq basically becoming a satellite state for Iran and say we wasted lives and trillions trying to build a liberal democracy in a, and this is their crude term, a Stone Age society.
And that skepticism carries over to allies, even Israel.
It does. Young people are way more skeptical. They see Israel as, quote, just another country that constantly meddles in U.S. politics. So their solution is simple. Ban all foreign aid, ban all foreign lobbying. Take that money and that energy and fix the problems at home, like housing.
And on immigration, the focus isn't just on the illegal border crossings anymore.
No, it's shifted to legal mass migration. They argue it floods the labor market and hurts American workers. It increases density, and it totally undermines assimilation. They'll point to, you know, parts of Miami where people don't speak English or areas called Little Somalia in the Midwest.
What's the core demand there?
Loyalty to America first. The argument is if you can't commit to assimilating and having your primary loyalty here, which is why they want to ban dual citizenship and serving in foreign militaries, then we shouldn't be letting you in.
Okay, so the sense of economic, cultural, and political abandonment. It leads us to the last piece of this puzzle, this deep crack in society between men and women.
The source identifies this as the future division of the country. And it's not just a division, it's leading to hostility, suspicion, and contempt.
How does the source break that down?
It's interesting. It says some of what gets called feminist empowerment is really just the male gaze. things like promiscuity that don't actually benefit women. But it also criticizes some traditional men who use their role as a provider to, you know, incorrectly assert dominance, thinking their role is just better. Both paths lead to misery.
So what's the solution offered?
It's not political. It's
Uh,
biological and spiritual. The core message is that men and women are designed for each other. They need each other. They complement each other. It's about partnership, not superiority.
and that search for something deeper, for meaning, is leading to a rise in religious faith.
It is. Church attendance is up among young men, and they're gravitating toward very traditional churches, Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy.
The sources see that as a rejection of modernity.
Yeah, a rejection of the superficiality of technology in modern life. It's described as this deep hunger for something lasting, something natural. They point out that a real, lived faith going to confession, partaking in the sacraments, provides a kind of fulfillment that the more superficial cultural Christianity of their parents just didn't.
They're searching for an internal truth to counter the external chaos.
That's a good way to put it.
So, to wrap this all up, the deep dissatisfaction driving this generation comes from a whole series of betrayals: cultural condemnation, economic exploitation through debt, political abandonment, and a broken social contract between the sexes.
And the reaction, what the media frames as radicalism or anger,
Mhm.
is presented by the source as a totally predictable outcome. When you systematically mistreat people, exclude them, exploit them, and then you attack them for not liking it, you're going to get a radical response. It's the logical consequence of breaking that trust.
Which leaves us with a final, really provocative thought from the source material. It states very directly, the truly guilty have escaped not just punishment, but criticism.
And that's the question you have to ask yourself. Why have the powerful institutions that benefited from this, the colleges that got rich off debt, the banks, the corporations that sent the jobs away, why have they managed to dodge accountability for so long? And what happens when an entire generation finally decides they're not going to let that continue, that shift in focus away from the messengers and onto the powerful? That's the real signal of where we are as a country right now.